नमस्कार, नमस्कारम, नमस्कारा, नमस्कारामु, नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, वणक्कम, आदाब अर्ज hai. I can go on and on. Viewers, all are the same. Greetings, and let us welcome our guest of the evening, Professor R. Vaidyanathan, and we are going to have a cracker of a session today. Welcome to PGurus channel, sir.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, as I mentioned, to be part of the PGurus initiative. The audience is extremely knowledgeable, and I would also suggest that you mention about you know subscribing to PGurus as well as joining, and you also mention about liking this part of the program so that according to you many more can benefit out of that. Correct?
Yeah. Just a quick statistics for all our viewers. We have crossed the 180,000 limit now. We are 180,000 subscribers strong. We had a small setback last month for about 5 days. We could not transmit, but after that, the recovery has been a bit slow, but we are hoping to pick up pace as we go. More importantly, there's a new feature in YouTube called Super Friend. If you like the program, please do consider donating using the Super Friend. We'll be eternally thankful to you, and do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and do click on the join button for notifications. I've told that in some cases, if you have to do the join in order to get the notifications. Only 1/10, that is 10% of the subscribers have also clicked on join. I'd like to see that thing go up all the way up to 100, and big request, just like this program now, you know that every minute of Professor RV's hangout is pure gold. Professor RV, I'm going to set the stage and then I'm going to step aside, sir. The stage is like this. I remember reading an article in 1980s in India Today about what happens when somebody converts from Hinduism to Christianity. At that point, this was not a big deal, but the article blew me away, literally blew me away. It talked about how when you go from one religion to another religion, you are carrying your caste along, and you will be made to sit in that row of the pew where your other caste members are. In other words, nothing changed. So, Professor RV, if that is the case, then why should anyone be worried about somebody becoming a Christian or a Muslim, except for the fact that their voting preference changes? How is religion and voting related? And also, why do you think they carry their caste forward, sir? I yield the floor to you.
Actually, there is a minor communication issue. Anyhow, this caste being carried forward is only a subset of a larger issue I am wanting to focus globally.
Please, sir, go ahead. Yeah.
This came about based upon some of my experiences and observation. If I remember in the 90s, I was in UK. There was some riots in the UK that time, London, primarily by the Mirpuri Muslims from Kashmir. Actually, the BBC and other papers, including the Independent, very surprisingly, they wrote Asians are on rights. So I wrote a letter to BBC. You are telling Asians are on riot, but I don't find any Chinese, Filipinos, Vietnamese, or any of them, or even Indian, Hindus. And you know that the riots are primarily done by the Mohammedans who are Mirpuri, they are called actually. They are very dominant group that time. Then BBC wrote me back very interestingly. They told we would like to consider groups according to their own perception of themselves. This is something very interesting. I never knew that large number of people in UK of Indian origin would like to be considered as Asians. Anyhow, over a period of time, this type of representation changed to South Asians. And further down the line, quite a number of people of Indian origin, they told no, we are not wanting to be identified as South Asian. Kindly, this is a very fascinating type of a identity issue actually when you are in another part of the place. Other one, very more interesting is, some of you may remember, there was an Abdul Salam who was a Nobel laureate actually. He is of Pakistani origin. He was a very well-known nuclear physicist and he was conferred a Nobel Prize. In his hometown, they erected, the local municipality erected a memorial for him, and then they put an arch telling the first Islamic physics Nobel Prize winner. But this Abdul Salam, interestingly, belongs to what is known as a Ahmadiyya sect. He is not a in the mainline Sunni or Shia. Ahmadiyyas, actually, Ahmadiyyas are a very large number in India also. You might be very interested to know they were one of the most leading lights during the demand for Pakistan. They were very active and they were extraordinarily, particularly in the presidency of UP and other areas. So these Ahmadiyyas are not considered as true Muslims by the other sects, particularly the Sunnis. And in Pakistan, they were not even given what is called in the passport the representation as Muslims. So they were not treated. And what happened is, in the graveyard where there is an inscription, they removed the word Muslim from this inscription. That means Abdul Salam became the first physicist to win a Nobel Prize, which is very absurd actually. They wanted to say he is the first Muslim physicist to win a Nobel Prize. That Muslim was gone. So similarly, Baha'is, for instance, Iran doesn't recognize them, and most part of the world they are not recognized as Muslims, but they consider themselves to be a true Muslims. If you come to the Christianity, that's much more interesting. There are as many what one can call subsect or sect in Christianity, and many a time I have come across people asking somebody like, "Are you a Christian?" What they mean is actually not a Roman Catholic. Are you a Protestant? So this is the type of question they are asking. And Mormons are not considered as Christians, even though they claim to be the followers of the the Latter-day Saints and other thing, because they seem to have their own person who found Joseph Smith, and who seem to have found some Aramaic written Bible in the New York park, and then that was propagated, and over a period of time they moved from one state to another. They were persecuted, another thing, lot of stories. Finally they are in the Salt Lake City area of US. They consider themselves to be Christians, born again, and followers of Smith. They have their own Bible, Black Bible, and they are one of the reasonably rich groups among the Christians. Presbyterians do not consider others to be equal to them in terms of Christianity. RC, of course, Roman Catholics are not considered too great in US context. Some of you may be knowing Joe Biden is the second Catholic president in US after Joseph Kennedy. It's one of the rarest things to happen actually. Otherwise, out of 40 plus presidents, most of them are either Presbyterian. Of late, in the last 10 years, or Episcopalians. In the last 10 years, you find, not 10, 20 years, you find more of Baptist and Southern Baptist and other thing after the arrival of Bush into the picture. The point is, many of them are not recognized in their own group as belonging to the larger group. For instance, as I mentioned to you, the Khojas, the Bohras even, are not considered as Muslims by the primary Muslims who are Sunnis and other things. But now what is happening is, particularly among Hindus, we tend to club all of them together as one group. We tend to talk about Muslims and or Christians. That's something very, very... We don't seem to understand that there are as many subgroups in Muslims as possible, even in the case of Hindus. So we will classify them as Muslims, Mohammedan. For instance, Muslims are this, Muslims are that. A lot of argument take place. I don't know whether Bohras are like that, whether Baha'is are like that, or whether Ahmadiyyas are like that, and Nobody seem to give a thought actually. So we are trying to make what I would rather call a unified group of people when they are not unified actually. Among you go into the matrimonial section of any of the what one can call newspapers, you find, for instance, Nadars. They say that they would have a Christian. They would have a Nadar Christian rather than anybody else from the Christian group. But we club them all together. At the same time, very interestingly, we also want Hindu unity. This is something which I have been hearing for the last maybe roughly 40 years at least minimum, or 50 years. Hindu unity is something I always amuses me. It is something like, I shouldn't use such a harsh word. It's something like a independent journalist or a neutral judge, or many of those words which are being often used, or what you may loosely call a peaceful jihadi, or all these things. Hindu unity is in other words, first of all, you classify the other group into single entity, and you want Hindus to be similar to that entity. In other words, as an Abrahamic entity or a Semitized entity. This is something which puzzles me always, because an upper caste Muslim is never going to have any marriage relationship with a lower caste Muslim. This is, and there are some people say 74, 75 caste actually within that. And there is a huge number of the single entity idea is only outside among academicians and maybe the TV experts. Like recently there was a big furor in Karnataka that Linkayat also should be declared as a separate group. And that was mainly because most of them have running educational institutions and other things, and they feel they would come out of the government control if they are not clubbed with Hindus, if they are treated as a another minority or another. That time it was revealed there are 94 sects of Linkayat, 4 of them belonging to actually the scheduled caste group. 94 sects of Linkayat, and many of them have their own views about the other sects, whether they are also true or not true or something. So this and in other words, I feel we are trying to unify other faith, and also we want our faith to be unified in a mirror image of that. That is one particular issue. Second is, you find whenever there is some discussion about let's say Sabarimala, women should enter or women should not enter, I find it is highly amusing. The retort of the Hindus are, some of the experts and commentators are, do they allow it in the mosque? I find it highly amusing. Why should you want to, justify your practices in terms of quoting somebody else's? Assuming even if they allow women into mosque, assuming, and you feel that Sabarimala is a situation where they are not wanting to go on their own accord, you should be able to justify it. Very simple. It's like this. Recently, there is a controversy in Tamil Nadu about one Adinam or one of the 𝙒𝙖𝙦 sect leader being carried in a palanquin to enter the city. This is going on for the last maybe 400, 500 years, they are telling. That is, he goes outside his area and then he comes back. At the time of coming back, he is carried on a palanquin for a short distance, and then he gets into this what you may loosely call the mutt. This is the practice. And now suddenly the government, under the pressure from some of the extremist atheist groups like DK and other thing, they wanted it to be stopped. Their argument is why a man should be carried by another man, another. Now that's fine. In the sense, immediately you find a large number of reaction. Pope is being carried. How does it matter? Even if Pope is not carried in a mobile or in a Pope, it's not called mobile even, it's called Pope mobile or something. Anyhow, even if he is not carried, how does it matter? You insist that this man will be carried as per tradition. That's all, period. No need to say that, some other dargah that they are doing this. And So slowly what is happening is, I find a large number of these experts and people associated with the Hindu faith are beginning to visualize Hinduism as a mirror image of other groups, which is extremely sad actually. So the first point of important to stress is there is nothing called a single group called Muslims. Let's be very clear. When we talk about it, we should be very clear. For instance, there are more number of Hatras killed in Afghanistan by the Sunni groups actually. They don't recognize them to be correct, good Muslims actually. So first we should what one can call addict ourselves from thinking there is a single group. We should be very clear. Are we talking about Shias? Are we talking about Sunnis? Are we talking about Baha'is? Are we talking about Bor? For instance, I don't find any time Boras are indulging in violence or indulging in any type of. They have their own their own guru or their own leader. They are following. Of course, there are a lot of criticism against this because he is collecting money from public, telling that you will get a reserved seat in heaven if you give so much money. For larger money, you will get a more VIP treatment in heaven, another thing. And some people believe it and give it. How does that matter? It's between him and his follower. Point I want to stress is, I have not heard anywhere that Boras went on riot in the streets. I have not read anywhere that Baha'is went on riot in the street. Why do you want to club all of it into a single group and then talk about it? Similarly, in Christianity, everybody knows, I am sure Iyer will know about it, there is a black church, which is very popular in US actually. And I was in Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the interesting cities where I was told there are 69 churches in one small location. There's so much of flooding of churches of various denomination type. Very interestingly, large number of my friends, they will go to one church but not to the other. Oh, no. I used to joke with them, why don't we go to the black church? No, that is, they will not openly say that, these are white people. We will never say, but black church is black church. Similarly, Lutheran, they have their own, Lutherans will not go to Pentecostal. So, I think we are not understanding at all that there are complexities in terms of a simple type of a thing. Recently, there was a report actually which came in the media and which was, which is not some error or fake news or something. Church of South India, one of the ladies had her child died. She belongs to Church of South India. That is, nominally a Protestant following church. And nearby her place, there is a Roman Catholic church. She wanted to bury the child there because that was the proximate thing available. And then instead of traveling quite a long, they told, no, you cannot do it here. This came in newspapers and she has to take the child finally to the other side. And then this is something, elementary thing, but an important thing. The burial right is not. The reason given by RC is you are not giving Dasama Bhagam. That is 1/10 of the, what is to be shared with the church has not been happening, and you are not RC, you are somebody else. So this is something very, very interesting. I think it is required for Hindu experts and commentators and various other, including Sri Iyer, I would request to initiate a dialogue on this. How to categorize the other groups? Are we justified in categorizing them into a single category? One. Second is, are we justified in trying to create a mirror image of ourselves from their point of view? In terms of, this is something like vegetarian, non-vegetarian type of an argument. I always used to be amused because there are something like 10 types of groups of vegetarians. There are vegetarians who don't take even this onion and what is that called? Garlic.
Garlic. Yeah.
Very James, very strict. According to them, anything which is beneath the surface of the earth, they will not touch. And there are vegetarians who take eggs and claim to be vegetarian. They say that egg is not. There are large number of vegetarian belonging to an upper caste who take fish. They say fish is jalapushpa. It's a flower in the ocean or water in the coastal areas, particularly Bengal as well as in the Mangalore area and other thing. There are vegetarians who say there are non-vegetarians who say that we take everything but not cow beef. Beef we will not take. And one step again, there are people who say we take beef also. It doesn't matter. Islamists say that they are non-vegetarian, but they won't touch pork. What I want to say is there is as many what one can call groupings as one can think about in formulating the hypothesis. But we are not at all rigorous about it in the sense of our understanding. So the first thing is I feel is total simple categorization in terms of he is a Muslim, he is a Christian. I think we should seriously rethink about it, given the global situation. They do it between themselves for the simple reason. Anybody who thinks Bible is holy, they say they belong to the one group. Anybody who thinks Quran is holy, they feel they are belonging to the other group, because that 125 square kilometer area, 125 square kilometer area, that's called Jerusalem. You should know that the three brothers are fighting for the last 2000 years for the territory. The third brother, of course, entered into the conflict around 7th, 8th century. 500, more than 500 million people have died for that. 500 million, half a billion human beings have died for that 125 square kilometer area. So they have even today it is not sorted out. Let's be very clear about it. They preach all over the world about peace and need for democracy, need for this and other. So they have the requirement in terms of categorizing the others into a single category. But what is our requirement? We are not part of any fighting for that 125 square kilometer area. It doesn't matter to us whether it belongs to X or Y. So first point is we should seriously relook at our own way of category. Second point is we should relook at our own method of dealing with the others. We should try to become others. Very simple. Third point is we need not and we should not justify any of our custom, tradition, and culture based upon are there are they doing it? Immediately this is the question. Government is doing something. Will they do it for the mosque? Okay, what if even if they do it for the mosque, why should we accept it? That they can do it for us. I think this is the second thing, very important. So, third thing, sorry. And the fourth thing is, I think it is required for knowledgeable people, experts, another thing, to sit around or come to some common conclusion in terms of no point in telling all Muslims are agitating. Moras are not agitating. Why are you unnecessarily clubbing them with other groups and other things? In the process, you are alienating more type of people. So I think we should be very cautious and very clear what type of groups. For instance, the evangelical group are much more active in conversion in India today, more than the RC actually. The evangelical groups are the ones who are going around because they feel they are born again Christian and that's their dharma to convert as much as possible. Number game they are and Pentecostal is one of the major leading group in that. The point is, so no point in telling all Christians are not many of them. Many of them don't consider it as dharma at all. They just go to church. So this is something I think I have been wanting to share with the enlightened group of PGurus for quite a long period of time. Okay, I think Iyer wants to.
Yes, and viewers, we would like everyone who's watching this program to click on the like button. We are not having the same kind of rousing response that Professor RV normally attracts. It's been a month or month and a half since he came last on our channel, and I would have thought like 5 times this crowd should have gathered by now. Unfortunately, I don't see much. So could you please click on the like button? That's all I ask of you. And let's keep going. Professor Adi, there are a few questions, but let me have one question of my own, sir. So when somebody converts into Muslim, how does things play out there? Are they carry their caste forward there too?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You see, one thing, whether you like it or not, caste is primordial. It is given to you at birth. On your own, you can claim that, if you don't practice any of your caste things, or particularly if you are in a metropolitan area, it doesn't matter. Many people, if you live in an apartment, they may not even know what you are and other thing, right? But otherwise, in other words, what I am telling is, you can excommunicate yourself from a caste by not doing any of those caste things. But anyhow, at the time of death and at the time of, there are three important events actually: birth, marriage, and death. These are the three times in which something or other plays about your caste, right? So even if you convert yourself into Muslim, it doesn't. I know in Tanjore quite a number of the people who converted, and who for instance, 𝙒𝙗𝙦𝙤𝙪, the Karunanidhi's community people who are known to me, who are agricultural laborers and others who converted, and they married actually people belonging to their own caste. Even though they are Muslim, they told it is okay because they belong to our caste. So it's a, and many of them do not even give up some many of the practices and other things. Many of them continue to wear saris. Many of them, particularly among the Christian groups, many of them even have the what you call this bindi. All these things are the Mangal Sutra and all these things, except the post this what you call your oil wealth post 70s 80s, when the Wahhabism began to penetrate. They began to make people much more what you may loosely call pure, in the sense of trying to wean them away from the earlier practices and other things. Other actually in the Christian thing, very funny. They have inculturization. Recently, there was a new church to be constructed. That they did on Ganesh Puja. So there is a, you won't believe it. It came in the papers, and it's not something put up story or something. So there is a what you may change your, it's like asking, sir, he has changed his dress from dhoti and shirt to waistcoat. Has he become different? No, he is same. He is like, I remember the famous person, I'm not getting his name anyhow. He was in France for a very long period of time. Anand, he has written very good novels and other things. He
Oh, you
used
mean
to,
Ananda K. Kumaraswamy?
huh? No, no, no.
Ananda K.
No, no,
Kumaraswamy.
no. That is Sri Lankan, and that's a
Hmm.
philosopher. I'm talking about the writer,
Hmm.
novel writer, actually. I'll get his name. Anyhow, he used to say that two things you should remember. When you look up, the sky is blue only everywhere. Some places it's slightly darker, some places it is light, some places due to rain it may be dark and other thing. Otherwise, whether you are in Chennai, whether you are in Frankfurt, whether you are in, more important, he used to say, you carry your own shadow. Most critical point is your shadow only you are going to carry. It's not going to be easily changed. So the caste, what we are talking about in terms of birth and other thing, so many generations before and before, so many type of practices and so many type of things have taken place, and it's not going to alter, over a one generation or two generation, maybe much longer period it might take. So there is they carry the caste with them. There is one report came, and it's also not a disputed report or anything. This pastor, this bishop actually, in the Mangalore belt, he told, I am not going to baptize any more kids whose parents claim they are Brahmin Catholics. So he told that I will not baptize them. It's a very major issue actually in the belt, even in some parts of Kerala as well as in. So the caste is there. You can say 150 things. Caste has been abolished. There is no caste, another thing, right? Okay.
All right, let's take some questions now.
There doesn't seem to be any question at all.
I thought I saw one or two.
Okay. Sachin,
Here's yeah.
Sachin filtering them.
There we go. There we go. Mr. Lee wants to know: does the Indian Constitution have provisions to allow new religions with a new founder and holy book?
Yeah, absolutely no problem. Except that it might take a long time. You see, as of now, as per the Supreme Court decision in the 90s, if you are not a Christian, if you are not a Muslim, if you are not a Jew, if you are not a Parsi, then you are ipso facto you are a Hindu. Let me repeat it. This question very often comes: who is a Hindu? The Hindu is not defined it directly in terms of if you do this, if you do that, you are no. You are asked, are you a Muslim? No, sir. Are you a Christian? No, sir. Are you a Jew? No, sir. Are you a Parsi? No, sir. Then you are a Hindu. That's all. Under that categorization, actually, Sikhs are Hindus, Jains are Hindus, Buddhists are Hindus. In other words, you can form HUF, you can, all those things. Under the Hindu law, you are, and reservation benefits are also available to you. So, can one form a new religion? It will take a long time. First thing, and then you have to declare what type of a religion it is, another thing, to be recognized by the constitution. And incidentally, many of the sects of Hinduism, sometime or other, they claim they are new religion only. For instance, I think many of you would have heard about it. The Ramakrishna mission wanted to come out of the Jyoti Basu government's regulatory framework. All those schools, colleges they were running and much another. They told that we are not Hindus. We are Ramakrishnaism we follow. They went to Supreme Court. There was a hue and cry. Supreme Court judge asked one simple question: if Swami Vivekananda cannot be considered as a Hindu, who else can be considered as a Hindu in this country? And threw the case out, which is correct actually. The point is they wanted to be recognized as a separate religion. Periodically, I also come across some friends of mine, Swaminarayan sect. They say that we were Hindus, we are also, but we are more advanced. Something like, the ifs and buts. ISKCON also, I find sometimes they say that they are more than Hindus, whatever it means, But most of the Hindus think that these are all, Hindu sects only. And the Sikhs, for instance, many Hindus think Sikhs are one of the groups of Hindus, but Sikhs, some of the Sikhs at least feel that they are separate. Okay.
Next question, please. Mr. Lee again. Can the government create a new caste called casteless Hindu? If they can do that, many modern Hindus will give up their caste and join casteless Hindu category.
You see, the government cannot create any caste or anything. These are socially created entities and other things. There is always a provision. For instance, you can conduct your marriage under Civil Marriage Act. You don't have to conduct it under the Hindu law or Hindu marriages. Under the Hindu Marriage Act, you have to, 7 times you have to come around fire, and that's what one can call sine qua non for a marriage. Saptapati you have to take another. Anyhow, so the government creating caste doesn't mean anything. Okay, and casteless Hindu is looks like an oxymoron because fundamentally anyone who is born is born into a caste in the system. So there is nothing you can. These are some modern jargons you can use, casteless Hindu and other thing. Okay.
Narendra Modi wants to know, at my place, Brahmin Thakur both come under ST and they do a lot of discrimination and also benefits affirmative action and protected by SC/ST Atrocities Act. What sense does this make?
No, SC and ST This guy, I told you, the Linga is one of the very supposedly forward caste in Karnataka. When they did the survey, they found there are 94 or so subsects of Linkayat, and 5 or 6 of them are SCs and STCs. So there is a, what I don't know how to give the message. Dalit Linkayat, it looks very ridiculous, but it's a fact. So there is a huge amount of this, what one can call, as Eman Sinha says, it's not as many hierarchies as possible are there in Hindu system. People think there is only one single hierarchy. Even Dipankar Gupta in his books and other thing have clearly exposed it. And Caste as a Social Capital is my book. You buy and read it. You will find that some of these anomalies are very, very interesting. Okay.
Next question from Kalyan Kotapati. Is it legitimate to give salaries to SC Hindus to convert Hindus to Christians? It's happening in Andhra Pradesh.
So very, there are two issues in this. Normatively, it should not happen. But in practice, it does happen. There is because you see, very important. It is told that because of scheduled caste, many of them have converted to Christianity, which is not a correct thing at all. Because South Korea, 70% have converted to Christianity. Taiwan and come into Thailand, even mainland China. And all those places, there is no scheduled caste or anything. There is no untouchability or nothing like that. But why did so many people, Singapore, why did so many people convert into Christianity? Because converting into Christianity is their dharma. Let's be very clear about it. Many churches, many pastors, many bishops think it is their duty to convert. If they don't convert, actually, you should be wondering what are they doing. I remember I went to a church in England a couple of years before. It was a huge one. 1,000 people it can accommodate. Unfortunately, the church-going habit has significantly declined in Europe. The NONE, none, is the largest group there now. Those who don't believe in anything. There are some 7 people sitting in the church which can accommodate 1,000 people in the front row. I went and sat. I was the 8th person actually. The pastor, of course, whether it is 7 people or 7,000 people, he was always fire and brimstone. He was, very, very angry and very articulate. Another thing that Sunday. Actually, he was a bishop, I think. The end of it, he came and patted me and asked me, "Are you from India?" I told yes. He told, "You are all in darkness." I told yes. Massive power cut. There is a big problem. The nuclear power is also not adequate for us. And this way, conversation went on for some time. And he told you all to be brought up from the, from the sort of a difficult quagmire or marshy land. I agree with him. Too much problem, rains and drainage is not proper. So the point I want to stress is converting is their duty. Let us be very, very clear about it. Whether it is Mother Teresa or whether, no point in telling, church is converting. Church is meant to convert. Underline this 4 times. Don't crib. Church is meant to convert. So there is no point in telling. We should have created at the time of independence. Nehru missed the chance, like China. China appoints their own, church head. The government appoints, not the Vatican. So we should have gone in for a local church and we should have had adequate safeguards. Anyhow, now there is no point in crying over spilt water. Church is meant to convert. Let's be very clear about it. There is no way in which you can. Why should there be a concept like minority institution? When they don't they are so many, then it becomes breeding ground for religious. It is not again and again Ramesh, Srinivas or Raghavan. Breeding ground for religious conversion and other things are all bunkum. The core point of the desert cultures, deserters I call them, is to convert others. Unless you get this into your head, it is not going anywhere. Okay, one is by inducement, one is by, and now the desperation is much more for Christians at least. The reason is the demographic decline in the West. They have huge churches. You should visit some of them, then only you will understand what I am talking. Running into thousands of acres. I am sure Iyer will know about it. Who will, what one can call, plow the grass on the outside? Who will sweep the floors, pew, wash the vessels? Traditionally, all these were done by the nuns and seminarians, those who come. In the 50s, there used to be some 80,000, 90,000 per annum joining. And the 50s, actually, it used to be running into 1.5, 2 lakh. Today, hardly, 70 to 100 join. Because in those days, all this work used to be done in the name of God, actually. You sweep the floor because you love Jesus. Very simple. And the payment is very, very nominal. So today there is a crisis in demography. They require people from countries like India who will do this, actually. You go to Europe, you go many churches, you will find the people of South Asia, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, various places who are Christians, who do all this work, menial work. But in the name of God, that's very important. So, what I want to stress is, it is their core philosophy to convert. You call it conversion, they genuinely feel they are trying to help you come out of the quagmire, come out of your situation, so that you are in a better position. They are taking you nearer to God. That is their way of looking. You see, you think that they think that you are in a deep pit and they are giving a helping hand. Okay? Do you think if a movement in between caste by having a ceremony, 𝙒𝙗𝙬𝙤, middle class, it was intended all these conversions, nothing will happen. First of all, you cannot. What is the movement in between caste? The whole caste itself is having movements. This is what 𝚤𝙗𝙬𝙤 and this Dipankar Gupta and others do. This is not something frozen. Let's be very, very clear about it. You go 300 years back, you will find some castes were not even in existence. Some of the castes have gone. Some of the castes have, And every caste you talk, they will say they are coming from Indra, Chandra and Surya. No caste will agree that they are descendant from any local Ramsamy or Kupsamy. No way. All of them are descendant from God. And all of them will say, nobody will agree they are backward caste to start with. That's what Dipankar Gupta says after doing extensive survey. They may agree backward caste for certificate and jobs. But in practice, they will say, no, we are actually princely, kingly. Like that, they will argue. Yeah.
Professor RV, I have a simple question. The reservations apply only in government jobs. And government is not recruiting at all, or to my knowledge, very, very less. So why so much hullabaloo about something that doesn't have any practical effect?
Because there is a hope that before the next poll, the reservation will be extended to private sector also. Very simple. Okay? Right?
Yeah. Here's a good question from Dheeran Vinod. Yeah.
Be rebranded as Sanatana Dharma. You can, all these are, sir, theoretical. Dheeran Vinod. You see, somebody told me, don't say it is caste, say it is jati. This is being told from 1920s. But it's still the word used is caste. Because everybody understands, everybody follows, and that's the only Dion Emmons, whom you can consider as a Einstein of sociology. I would put it like that. If you want to know the equivalent, he never used the word jati. He told caste because it is already so much understood. That's all. So Hinduism is commonly understood. You can call it Sanatana Dharma. Nothing wrong about it, right? But all the millions of people, globally are not going to immediately switch over to Sanatana Dharma, right? Like, It's like Burma, people, a large number of people still call it Burma, even though it is Myanmar in practice, like Bombay, and renaming is not bad, but how many people are going to follow it another, right?
Next question from Ravi Yogarajan. There is a reference in Shankara Gita there that when kings amass too much wealth, then invasions will happen on the kingdom. What is your opinion?
I don't think so by itself. The most important is, do they amass wealth in a illicit way, legal way, in terms of expropriating the peasants and other thing. Second is it fairly well known outside? Quite a lot of kings have amassed wealth, but not known outside. This is. Third is, do they use it when there is a crisis? For the common peoples, they open up their treasury and then provide in the form of help when there is a acute drought, or for instance, there are a lot of literature in south. Whenever there is a massive drought or something, they went in for this temple construction. That's one of the great Keynesian work they could do actually in those days. Keynes told you dig the pit and fill it up, but they didn't do that. They actually, and building temple is two ways. So one is a spiritual thing. Second, it provided huge employment opportunities for large number of agricultural people who are facing the drought. It's one of the most interesting things actually, right? So by itself, I won't say invasion will take place.
Next question, Professor. What are your thoughts about subcaste within Brahmin community? Also, is it shrinking?
No, this you see, you should Venkat buy my book, please. Most important. See, in the last beginning of middle of last century, it was fragmentation. Everybody was talking about subcaste, subcaste, and other thing. There are 405 subcaste among Jats. Now it is only one. They are all at least politically required to call themselves Jat. See, the post-independence time, this whole development took place, and it's very attractive for vote bank purposes to have a larger consolidation. There are 83 type of Yadavs. Why in Tamil Nadu there were some 70, 80 years before there was nothing called Thevar. There were only Mukkulathur. 3 different kulas were there. Today everybody is becoming Thevar because of the. So same thing is happening in the Brahmin community. Today quite a large number of them are aggregating. Recently somebody told about some girl marriage, and he told any South Indian Brahmin is okay. That's what he was telling. It's very interesting actually. Forget about being Vaishnavite or Shaivite or anything, because the numbers are demographically shrinking, and the supply demand equation is also changing. That's all. That's the main thing in terms of this what you call sub segments in the caste system. Yes. Next.
Next question from Kalyan CV.
Private companies, chances are very high. But one thing, it's not going to significantly affect. If it is a manufacturing company, if you see the shop floor, already substantial number of OBCs and SCs are working. So it's not going to dramatically change unless government explicitly says the board of companies, so many should belong to so much caste. In every board there should be one OBC, one SC. Other than that there is nothing, and they are already in substantial number. But there are some areas where there could be a problem in terms of, for instance, this partnership firms. I do not know how they will implement this reservation in private sector. There are 20 partners. Can you insist that 4 partners should be of this nature? I don't know. As far as the employment is concerned, quite a number of SC STs are already in, except they may not be in the board level positions, but they are in various other levels of positions. We have to wait and see how the politics plays out before 24 in terms of this reservation.
And Chaitanya wants to know, Professor RV, can Hinduism be made into an organized religion so that we can also start making conversions? We should convert Europe into Hindu Rashtra.
What is that? Chaitanya OSK rupees 100. What does it mean, sir?
That means he has donated 100 rupees, sir. He's like a
Oh,
super
very nice.
sticker.
Very good.
Thank you.
Somebody
Thank you,
else
Chaitanya.
earlier was rupees 200. Very good.
Yes, yes, yes.
See, Hinduism be made into an organized religion, is a oxymoron. Let me make it very clear. See, first of all, we are not a congregating religion. To be an organized religion, it should be a congregating religion. Congregating religion mean every week or, like Fridays or Sundays, they meet in groups, and then second is there should be a recognized preacher. That is another thing. And there should be a recognized book from which the preacher will preach. I was in, for instance, a small island called Mauritius. They have large number of churches. I was told that every week it is clearly mentioned which is the chapter which should be used by which church, right? And similar thing I heard in places like Tamil Nadu, another thing also. So this is so you require to be congregationist, you require to have a book, and you require to have a preacher. None of it we have. And actually, I remember in the 90s, some of these temple priests were to be imported. Imported, I mean, brought into US. There was a lot of issues. They were to come as so they were put as preachers and priests. And many questions are asked. What will they preach? And nothing. They will chant slogas. That's all. They are not. They are not in the regular sense of. Maulvi or a bishop or anything like that. They are only intermediaries between you and God in terms of the Sanskrit slokas. Of course, you can approach them and ask for any doubt but per se they won't issue any diktat or anything like that. So making Hinduism into an organized religion is a extraordinarily complex thing. It's not. I don't think it is. Between you and me, last 2000 years, it has not happened. So I don't think the only time we congregate, let me say, is Kumbh Mela. We all assemble. And incidentally, that's a very interesting thing. Our friend Dharampal mentions it. That's the time in which people don't worry about anybody's caste. All people assemble. Food is never a problem. God only knows who cooks and how much. Food is always available in Kumbh Mela. Nobody who has gone to Kumbh Mela has complained that they didn't get any food. Fruits, cooked food, and so on. And then people all go back. And not by any, interesting in terms of any, what one can call newspaper ad or nothing. Word of mouth. When is the next Kumbh Mela? It's not announced in the net. Right? It comes much, much later. Word of mouth, already people know. This is the month, this is the days, this is the river. That is the only congregating time I want to tell you. No other time we are. So it's very difficult, It's and we have so many type of what you call philosophies, underlying principles, and other things. And don't immediately conclude that all of them are fighting. Somebody asked me in Tamil Nadu, it appears there is a case going on for a long time about an elephant, whether it should be put this namam with a line below, that is southern part.
Sir,
Or
you are white.
so they were laughing. I told you, see, look, 100 years this debate is going on, but neither the group used a belt bomb to solve it. This is something which you should appreciate. It's a major. It's based upon two basic principles of Vaishnavism actually. One is in terms of what is known as the Nyaya for the cat which takes its kids. Other is in terms of the monkey which takes its kid. These two are different ways of lifting the kid and taking it to safety. So these are very deep-rooted issues of philosophy, which has exhibited itself in the form of these. None of them use violence. always debate, always discussion. The original Adi Shankara and this
Mandana Mishra.
Mandana Mishra, same thing. So there is nothing, we are hundreds of sects, hundreds of differences, but always with respect we sort it out. Or continue with the debate and discussion. Never use violence. Never use to, compel another fellow, unless you follow this, you are going to hell. No. No sect has told anybody else. Advaitins never told Visishtadvaitins that if you don't follow, you are going to. No. You follow your thing. This is something I think. So the organized religion is not going to be easy. The state can follow the thing. State can protect. The state can actually give, and state alone can give protection to Hinduism, because Hindu society has got so many type of differences. It's the responsibility of the state, if you ask me. And the current state, after 47, when we became independent and other things, the responsibility is much, much more. And that has to take up the task of protecting the customs, cultures, and other things.
Thank you very much, Professor RV. That was another enthralling session about the fact that at heart, everyone born in Bharatvarsha is a Sanatani, follower of Sanatana Dharma. It doesn't matter which religion you profess, the underlying concepts never change. Thank you very much once again, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.